I'm happy to be participating in this conference and tell you about some of the work that we've been doing on eye movements in great-tailed grackles. Species often use eye movements to direct their overt attention towards specific targets. Some species, such as birds and lizards, can move each eye independently. In some cases, the two eyes can be coordinated through central mechanisms. For example, when pigeons eat or peahens jump, both of their eyes converge to the food or landing spot, respectively. In other times, the two eyes are not coordinated, and each eye is moving in directions unrelated to the other eye. In pigeons, the left and right eyes move in uncoordinated directions when stimuli are presented in the lateral visual fields. These are photos showing a cormorant with coordinated eye movements, both eyes directed forward, and uncoordinated eye movements with one eye directed forward and the other eye directed off to the side. When individuals exhibit independent eye movements, it's possible for them to direct one eye towards one target while directing the other eye toward another target. Few studies, though, have tested whether species can independently move their eyes to different targets. One of these few studies was done in common chameleons. These chameleons are able to track two targets moving in opposite directions, as depicted here, showing that each eye is tracking one of the targets. In contrast, zebra finches are not able to direct their eyes toward two different targets, for when one of their eyes moves towards a target, the other eye moves in the opposite direction. Because so few studies have examined this topic, we decided to test in further detail whether other avian species can independently direct their eyes toward different targets. We specifically hypothesized that great-tailed grackles can independently move their eyes towards two different targets, and we predicted that the grackles would move their left eye towards targets in the left visual field and the right eye toward targets in the right visual field. We chose to perform this study using grackles because they exhibit a wide range of eye movements and they can move their eyes separately from each other. We tested 32 captive female grackles by showing them digital stimuli of human faces that were simultaneously presented on these two monitors here. The birds were restrained in a foam cradle and their bills were secured so that the angle between the bird's eyes and the targets were consistent across trials. And we recorded their eye movements using these camcorders. Each bird viewed 4 different stimulus configurations, both of the targets in the upper visual fields, both of the targets in the lower visual fields, or we have one target here in the lower visual field of the left eye and one target in the upper visual field of the right eye, or the reversed, with the target in the upper visual field of the left eye and the lower visual field of the right eye. A correct response was scored when the grackle moved their eyes towards both targets. The targets were always positioned in the same horizontal location, so the birds needed to move their eye back towards the monitor in all configurations. For example, when they are viewing this configuration, the birds needed to move their eyes toward the back of the computer monitor and both of their eyes up towards the target. Here's a video clip that I've slowed down showing you how the grackles moved their eyes when they were viewing the targets that were both in the upper visual field. And you'll notice that both of the eyes move upwards. This is before the target appears, and both eyes move up. So here's another example in which the target for the left eye is in the upper visual field and the target for the right eye is in the lower visual field. And you'll see that the left eye moves up and the right eye moves down. So before the target appears, after the targets appear, and the eyes move. And in this case, the eyes moving in different directions. So we analyzed these data from all the birds using circular statistics. And this is an example of a circular diagram that summarizes the results. The thick line here represents the direction and magnitude of where the birds move their eyes. So if it falls between 0 and 90 degrees, it means that the birds move their eyes towards the front of the monitor and upwards. If it's between 90 and 180, they move their eyes towards the back of the monitor and upwards, and the same for these other sections. In this case here, the vector falls right in this section here, meaning that the bird moved its eyes towards the back of the monitor and upwards. Now that we're oriented to these diagrams, we can take a look at the overall patterns of eye movements before and after the stimuli appeared. So in this case here, in which both of the targets appeared in the upper visual field, we can see that before they appeared, the eyes, both the left eye and the right eye, were moving in random directions. But after the targets appeared, both eyes moved back towards the monitor and they moved upwards, both the left and the right eye. And we see a similar situation for the other configurations in that the eye moves towards the targets. So in this case, where both of the targets were in the lower visual field, we don't see the eyes moving in any particular direction before the targets appear, but afterwards, both eyes are moving downward and towards the back of the monitor. Same for the right eye. And in the case where the target is in the lower visual field for the left eye, upper visual field for the right eye, we see that before the eyes are moving in mostly random directions, and afterwards the left eye moves down into the back of the monitor and the right eye moves up into the back of the monitor, consistent with where the targets are. And lastly, we see the same for the reverse, where the target is in the upper visual field of the left eye, lower visual field of the right eye, and beforehand, the eyes are moving randomly, and afterwards, the left eye is moving up towards the target and towards the back of the monitor, and the right eye is moving down towards the target and towards the back of the monitor. After targets appeared, we can also look at how correct the birds were overall. And you can see across all the configuration, the birds perform much better than chance expectation, as indicated by this horizontal line. They performed best when the target was in the upper visual field of the left eye and lower visual field of the right eye at nearly 40% correct. But in all cases, they performed at levels better than chance. So overall, our hypothesis was supported. We found that grackles can independently direct their two eyes toward different targets. It's possible that they're directing their overt attention towards the two targets simultaneously, or they might be rapidly alternating their attention. And it's likely that their ability to direct their eyes at two targets is helpful in natural contexts, such as when they're foraging for food, as well as watching out for predators. With that, I'd like to thank the birds as well as my funding sources. And I'd be happy to take any questions.